Okay, everybody, I'm starting a little bit late because I was in here telling stories. Yes, that was me. And we've got 4 or 5 of us that will build. I want to do some housekeeping, and so let me get on here for a moment and mute everybody. There we go. Let's flip down to where we're at. We're at week 10, I believe, or, yep. Hey, week 12. Now, these access cases, 1, 2, 3, and 4, we've already done these, so you should already have them uploaded. Okay, we've been working forward, and we've been front loading everything because we're now going to come down to week 13, 14, and 15, and let's talk about those. Week 13, you'll notice there is nothing going on there. Okay. That's because I'm going to give you time to work on the spatial analysis exercise, the self-developed quiz, and then to start to work on the finals. If you've had a course with me before, which I don't think any of you have, I have my final exam set up like this. I have a part A, which is the stuff's due at the start of the final exam period. Then I'll usually have quizzes that are due at the end of the final exam period. Do not, under any circumstances, try to do all of it in 2 hours. It will not work. You will fail. So I give you the time to work on the first part of it. I give you some pretty explicit instructions. Screencasts of things to look at, as mentioned there. You see Moodle, think Canvas, and then you'll have final exam part 1, and then part 2 is a quiz, and that's to be submitted no later than 10 a.m. So our final exam period is Wednesday, May 15th at 10 a.m. to noon. Pardon me, 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. I will be here, okay, and I'll be over in my office. Let me say this. It is in your best interest to work and try to do as much of this as you can prior to finals week for a very simple reason. Number one, if something goes wrong, say with your internet connection, and you're out there doing a test, and you're not here at OBU that day, I can't help you if it's during the final exam period. If it's before that, I can help, but not that day. So if you're here and you say, well, I'll take the quiz, take it at school that morning, be my guest, but I would advise I'd do part 2 prior to. Say, are you urging me to get the final exam, all this stuff done before finals week? Yes. Which I think you can do if you budget your time, because I'm not going to be doing lectures. When we're in these flex times, I'm going to be at the office. I'll be available for questions, but with no class times, Thursday I'm just going to go back. I'll go over these big assignments and we'll talk about them, and that's all I'm going to do. Okay, because from that point on, you're into project land and finals land. And I'll be there to answer questions, but I'm not going to be eating up the time. So you say, are you telling me that I should use my class time to work on this stuff? Yes, I would do that. That would be a smart move. But I will be available to help out either virtually or here. So I think we have a pretty good sense of what we've got going on in front of us in terms of our work. I sent everybody an email today. I also posted it over in the welcome area about the types of files. This is the time of year where people start sending me files that I can't open. If you send me a file that I can't open, okay, it's late. You got a problem. It's your responsibility to upload a file that's compatible with what we're working with here. And if you have a question, it's a good idea to send it to me before when the assignment is due, so I can open it up and go, hey, this isn't going to work. All right? Now, I've spoken about it several times, and I've had answered questions in classes and emails, So I thought, okay, I'm going to have to put a definitive policy on this, where I'll have these situations where someone will load up a temporary system file because they didn't save it to their desktop, or maybe they're working on a Mac or a Linux machine and they're using a file extension that won't open up. So if you have a question, if you have a doubt, it's not a bad idea to contact me and say, here's what I think I'm going to give me an example of the file and see if I can open it. If I can, you're probably good to go. For some of you, the best route for you, let's say you're working with Mac for Office for Mac, your best, safest route will probably be do the work, then do the work, then do a print screen so I can see the formula, etc., and put it into a PDF. Okay? If you've got something funky that's not going to show up here or won't open up, I'll have a problem. Okay? So I'm just trying to make sure that I save you some heartache and me some heartburn when I get a file and I can't open it. And I've always said if I can't open the file, it's a 0, and I've been pretty easygoing. But when I've had a few instances now where people have uploaded a file, I couldn't open it up. It was clearly a Mac file, or I don't know what it was, and then wanted to come back after all the work had been turned in, and after I'd sent out the key so everybody could see, mysteriously they were ready to do work. So got to get it to me in a file format that works. Anybody got a question about that? No? Okay. Let's proceed on. We're going to work on Access database case number 6. And it's an old case. It's called Uber Audio. And Uber Audio 1, I think, is what the thing was called. So you're going to find it up here in the welcome area. And if you scroll on down there, you'll see it's going to be ACCD B6 done. And you'll want to download that SPF15, excuse me. Download that to your desktop, okay? And then we'll take a look at it. In the same token, we have, this is the Lambert text. This is our database text. We'll open it up. And we're going to work on chapters 12 and 13. Chapter 12 and chapter 13 deal with maintenance kinds of things, protection kinds of things of your database, like using a password. They show us about how to use a database splitter, okay? And so those two chapters, are the files for them are going to be Garden Company 12 and Garden Company 13. And again, this will walk you through step by step of some of these maintenance and security things that, for all intents and purposes, you're not going to have to mess with it. When you're at work, you'll sign in and you'll have access. You'll have a product that will open up, and you'll work with that product based upon what your company is going to allow you to see and do. Okay, but this is just nice stuff to know for a simple reason. You'll be able to communicate a little bit more intelligently with your DBA, database administrator, or with a vendor that you might use. Your decision makers. Your job is not to warehouse data. Your job is not to extract data, although we're going to be doing those things. Your job is to take data, analyze it, and then put it into a visual format that makes sense and allows us to make a decision, or at the very least describe something that has to do with our key aspects of our business. And so chapters 12 and 13 are not really throwaways. They're just kind of addendum chapters. I think they're nice for you to know, but not that big of a deal. Now, the one thing in there that is kind of intriguing, and I want to show you because it kind of introduces you to a multi-user environment, is the database splitter. So I'm going to go down here, and I've got Garden Company. What have I got this thing? they call it? Garden company something. All right. And okay. All right. And I'm going to call it Garden Company 127. I'm going to put it on my desktop. I'm going to save it and I'll enable the content. Now, Garden Company, as we'll see in this chapter 6, the old case that I had, this is again a dashboard where you can perform certain tasks that are related to key performance indicators or key tasks that you're needing to do. And you could see here's the customer ID and all that business. And so this opens up right off the bat. And if you want a particular form to open up, you can click on File, okay? And then you go down to Options, right? And you click Current Database. And you could come down and you could find use a form and a report, uses a form and report icon, and if you want to, you can display a form. You'll see that right there, and they display that thing called Home Page. And that's a little dashboard. You hear all this stuff out there about dashboards, etc. The main thing is this: we collect data from all kinds of sources. We clean it up so we can warehouse it. We might have a thing called a data mart where we'll have a collection of databases or sets of data that are highly specialized, okay? Then I extract the stuff. Now that's where you and I come in. We'll have something like SAS Visual Analytics, or we'll have Oracle or SAP or any one of the products that are out there. We'll extract some data. We'll run a query, we'll extract some data, and then we'll analyze it. We'll analyze it numerically, etc. And then once we've done some analysis, then we try to visualize it, put it into a graph, a chart, a line chart, something that shows the pattern of the data and tells us that's a better cue for us as people to understand what's happening. Okay? And that's really the whole process in a nutshell. That's why over here in your resources, why at the start of the course we talked about, for example, like Anscombe's quartet, where he gave us 4 sets of data. They had the same summary statistics, but when you charted them, they looked completely different. Why you had the Stephen Few text, show me the numbers, okay? I think I even put a link up there about the most influential visualizations ever. I also put I think there's a link up there about the guy who was in London, who was the first person we know who took a map and plotted points, and that was in the cholera outbreak there in London. And what he was able to do was to trace it back to a particular water hydrant. Prior to that, people thought it was a contagion carried by air, but the truth was it was carried by water, not by air. And what happened was he started putting dots every time some got sick with the cholera. And then he saw an outlier, some people that were out at some brewery somewhere that worked, and they got sick. And he asked them, have you been into the city lately? And he did some Q&A with the people there, and come to find out, yes, they had been in that exact street and they had used that water pump, and that's how they discovered what was going on with that. Now, I think I've got a link in there for that story. Those are kind of the kernels of what we're doing and why this is so important for us to grasp this and understand, because the better we can portray data, and even in real time, the better off we're going to be in terms of saying, here's where the company is performing well, where it's not performing not so well. Here's what's going on with our customers. Here's what's happening in terms of our transactions, etc. And the thing you've heard me say over and over and over is how I leverage the law of big numbers, or the law of large numbers. Okay? The stuff that you see, for example, when you watch the weather, and I'm a weather junkie, it is incredible compared to what it used to be. Well, we're going to see the same thing in business. And so by the time all of you are out working and I'm dead and long gone, you're going to have applications on your phone. You won't even have a phone probably. You'll have some kind of device. Maybe you'll carry a device. Or you'll have something that will transmit, you can touch on a surface and will create a virtual device for you, and you'll be able to do things with data you never dreamed. How do I know that? Because I never believed I would see the stuff that I see now with the applications that we have. Well, that being said, click on Database Tools, okay? And we're going to split this database. And you'll see the thing that says Move Data, okay? Well, let's close the home page off first because we want to have all the objects off. And we'll click Database Tools, and then you'll see a little thing that says Move Data. Click it. And you'll get the data. You click it, the little thing above it. And you get the database splitter. Now, this is the splitter wizard, and what it does is it will create a back end and a front end database. The front end database will be a view, a picture that you can work with it, but it's a visualization of what's the database, the back end database, okay? And why? Well, that lets us work in what we call a distributed computing environment, and based on the speed of our Wi-Fi, based on the computing power of our servers, and how well we program everything, the issue becomes, how many people can access and work with it at once. If it's a company of 1,000 people, you may have 30 or 40 databases, which at any given time you got 5, 6, 7 people, and all of this happens and it's all queued. That's why folks, computer science students study database management to queue everything, etc. But it happens so fast we don't even notice. But the splitter will create just a little object out there that we can look at. So I'm going to click Split Database, and you'll notice, you'll see this name, Garden Company 127_BE. You see the BE? That tells you that's a split. It's a picture of, it's a back end. Why they don't call it an FE, I don't know, because this is the front end, this is the user end. Don't ask me. It's been one I've complained about for a long time. I'll click Split, and it'll say successfully split. Now I'm going to close down here, okay? And I should see this Garden BE in here somewhere. Here's 127. And I'm going to be looking for the 127BE, which is this is strange. Because I know you're here. Here it is. Now, I'm going to open it up, and here it is. But this is just really an image of what we've got saved. If you look at the top of the toolbar, and I'll close this thing off. If you look at the top of the toolbar on any one of these, let's just open that up for a sec. Okay. And I'm going to put this Garden Company 129. I'll throw it over here on the desktop. When you click on the top here, you're going to see external data and all of these ways that you can export the data from this database into other databases, to text files, or to Excel, to an XM file, a PDF, whatever. Again, the whole point is it's shareable, and It's a way for us to take it and put it into another environment where we can work with it. I've emphasized Excel because in classic terms, I export data that has some kind of meaning and has to be worked with in an analytic engine that allows, a quantitative engine that lets me count it, summarize it, and then put it into a visual picture, okay? And so you can see, and then here are the tools, and we'll talk about them a little bit before we go. Now, if you've found the ACCDB, you should go ahead and download it. And it's called, the file, it deals with a company called Uber Audio. And let me find my friends here from Uber Audio, whatever I did with them. We'll do a little bit of work with it and take a look and see what we're trying to cover here. Now, there's a little bit of symmetry between this and what's in the text. Again, over here in Lambert, you'll want to look at chapter 12 and you'll want to look at chapter 13. So I'm going to download this. And I'm going to show it in the folder, and then I'm going to stick it on my desktop. There it is. I'm a drag and drop kind of guy. Although I would say this: if you intend to make serial killing your career, don't be a drag and drop kind of guy. That's the easiest way for the cops to catch you. Okay, just a word of caution. Not that I know anything about it. It's just a drag and drop. It was something to say. Anyway, who says you don't get your money's worth of me? Oh, do you ever? So click enable the content. Here again is our little dashboard. Now, some dashboards are designed primarily around data entry. This is one of them. If you take a look, we're going to add a new customer, add a new company, produce a mailing list, or then we exit the system. Now, these are a series of tasks to which are attached macros. You remember we worked with macros in Excel, okay? It's the same thing here. We record some keystrokes. Now, if you click on the design view, okay, and you'll go down here in the design view, you're going to have the following. You're going to have the form header, the detail, that's where we put the data, and then you're going to, then you'll have used sometimes a footer. Let's see if they have a footer on this. Yeah, form footer. And then notice you've got the lines and the dots. If you went and took a web design course, you're going to really be looking at that at a magnified level so you can get everything just perfect. So you have all those dimensions, as well as any object to put in it or anything of that sort. Okay? Now, let's come over here to add a new customer and click on it, right? And let's click properties. So right-click it, and we'll get the property sheet. This will tell us everything about this command button. Well, this is just as it was in Excel, where we ran those macros. You know, we did the sorts and the filters on business. And we had a slow vendor, fast vendor, etc. Then we inserted an object on top of it, a shape. Same thing here. We've created a label on top of this that gives, so we can just click on the thing. This is why what we call object-oriented programming is so important and so powerful, because I can just click the icon. I don't have to write the programming for all of this. So we've got the property sheet there now. Let's close that off for a second. And if you come down and you click on the design, you're going to see some items here, right? Here's the select. Here's a text box, a label, here's a command, a file button. This is a hyperlink. These are objects we can put in there. So this is a web browser. We can control it. Navigation control. A chart. We can put a picture in here. We can put a logo. Anything we choose to do. All right. Let's click on this thing XXXXX and click. It's a button. And up pops the command button wizard. And it will ask us, what do you want to do? Do record navigation. Okay. Find a record. Work with forms. You can see the operations with the basic objects that we have in a database. Okay. And so let's click form operations, and let's click open a form, and click next. And we're going to have our choice of which form we want to open. Follow me?
As you start that sequence.
I'll go back. That's all right. Let me walk right back. Cancel it. I'm in here, and I'm going to get rid of this. I'll delete it. It's a good question. I'm going to click up here in the button, command button, okay? And I'll shape it out how I want it, okay? And then I get the wizard. Now on the wizard, you're going to see the following: record navigation, record operations, and then applications and miscellaneous. And you'll notice, for example, a form operation, click on that, and your choices are apply a form filter, close a form, open a form, print a form, print the current form, refresh it from data. So I'm going to choose open a form, click next, and I can choose from one of those to open them up. Now, once I save that button and it does it, it's just like when we create. Remember when we created on Excel, we ran the macro and then we inserted an object like the stars and all that. Same story here. Pretty much the same process. That's why we call it object-oriented programming, because the code's been written to create the object. The code's been written to do the command, execute. All I do is I choose it. I don't write the code to do that stuff. It's already pre-formatted and built in for me. Okay. I'll click next and open the form and show all the records, or open the form and define specific data to display. I could click next, and I've got a picture, or I can use just a Microsoft form. And I've got command 6, and we'll finish this. Okay. Then we'll go back up to the form view, and let's see if that thing's going to go hot for us. And there it is. Did it work for you? Or no? Okay. Well, I'll walk back through it. It's okay. Not a big deal. Go back to that Uber marketing database, the main menu. Now, have you saved you have to have the database saved on your desktop. Have you done that, everybody? Yeah. And you may have to rename it before you can save it down to your desktop. You get there?
No.
Okay. Now I'm in this Uber marketing base, so I'm just gonna repeat the cycle. So I'm gonna take this down to the design view, And I'm just going to get rid of this. I'm going to delete this. Okay. Now, if you look up here under design, you're going to see some different objects like the chart, okay, or some controls, a combo box. We can insert a page break. We've got some option groups. These are navigation controls, a hyperlink. The command is the most generic of all of these. So we've got, and notice something, I see a text box. A text box is what we call an unbound text box. It's where we contain data. And it's called unbound because data can be stored in all types of different ways. So the text box is just there as a blank canvas where we throw the data on it. Now, next to that, I have a label. Pardon me, I have the text box. Then I have the label, and that's where I can label things. So typically what I'll have is a label next to an unbound text box, okay? And then I'll have the data that it's going to pull up. But let's just click on the command button. Yeah.
There's a label on text box. What's the advantage of using them separately where I can put two text boxes?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you're asking. Go, shoot again.
Why do you use a text box and label? You could just use two text boxes instead of
If it'll do the same thing for you, I don't really see any reason not to. The only difference is this is the label. Well, it'd be kind of like, I guess the question is kind of like, why would I name a column in Excel have different names for columns? Okay, because the text box, we call it it's an unbound text box, and it's where we put data. A label says this is a name. That's all. It's stuff written there that says, hey, this is what the human being calls this. That's all. Got it? Okay. But a good question. And when there will be a lot of people who will try who try to work with a couple of those. Nonetheless, let's come down in here to the detail, and I'm going to click on the command button. Got that? And you see the little positive sign. The command button's got the XXX, and you see the command sign. Yeah? Okay. Now I'm just going to size it up, and then the command button wizard pops up. That's when I decide what I want it to do. And I can work with records, forms, reports. They have, if you have an application embedded in this, you could do that. Or if you have miscellaneous, I've never even messed with that. Mostly this is to open up a form or to navigate to a record. Like take me to the first record in the sales table. Okay, so you just click the button and you do it. Now, let's do this. Let's click record operations since I mentioned it. Well, yeah, let's go to form operations. That's the one I think is going to probably intuitively make a lot more sense to us. And we want to open a form. Okay, you with me, everybody? Okay, I'll click next. And here are the forms. Add a company, add a customer, main menu. I want to go to add a company. I've chosen that. And then I click next. It says open the form and find specific data to display, or open the form and show all of the records. The default one's the bottom one, as you would guess. With me so far, everybody? Click next. And it says, okay, do you want a picture on your button? Because the button can have, we can format the button, we can put text on it, we can put fill in it, etc. I'm just going to stick with the Microsoft Access form. So I'll click next. And this is called command 7 because this is the 6th or 7th time I worked with this silly thing. So click finish. Okay. Got it? Now, to get this thing hot, I'm going to take it back up to the form view. So look over there and you'll see the far left corner of the form. Okay. And then click it. And there's add new company. This is just like when we did the macros in Excel. Okay. Again, this is a little beyond what you really need to know. If you're working for a real tiny little company or something like that, the knowledge that you've got here of access will carry you to the point till you have to go to a multi-user environment, and that's the time you have to call in a vendor or hire somebody to create that for you. Typically, if you use a vendor, they'll give you a template. You've heard me mention, I think maybe you've heard me mention ACS. ACS is a company that has templates for churches, okay? And they have a database system set up and works for a church. There are others out there that are, if you looked at Oracle, it has one for every kind of establishment. I think I mentioned before, Oracle's retail manual is 430 pages long. Oracle says if we sell you the product, we're going to have you use the product like it's designed because we have the experience and know-how to do it. And if you don't use our product properly, we'll kiss you off as a customer. Because we don't want you out saying Oracle isn't work, it's no good when you haven't done what we ask you to do. And if you follow their program, it's aces. I did some consulting back early in my career for a group of people called the Duran Institute. Duran is one of the so-called three fathers of quality, the others being Edward Deming and the other being Crosby. Duran had his own process. Duran Institute had their own way to do quality assurance. And they had a rule. If you were going to be their client, there were two rules. One, at the time, you put up $250,000 non-refundable deposit to get your attention. If you're going to use my method, you're going to use it. Then they would not contract with you. Then you signed a contract, and all of your executive and management team went to their school for 8 weeks. If you left the school, they ended the contract. They are the ones who are credited with saving Ford Motor Company. Back in the 1970s and the early 80s, the automotive industry in the United States was about to die because it was still living in a world where it said, well, let's just throw junk out there, and if it's shiny enough, people will buy it. Not caring about the gas crisis that was under, the fuel crisis, not caring about people wanting kinds of new aesthetics in terms of vehicles, not taking any of that to account. And it was, and then they had also this thing called planned obsolescence. It sounds good, but it's insane. Planned obsolescence means I build a car, and it is designed to last so many years, and then it falls apart. What happens then? The customer does what? They come back and buy another car. Isn't that nice? Smart. And that was how things were designed. Engine blocks were designed to crack in about 10 years. Brakes were designed to go out because you can, when you work and manufacture things, you can build into them a lack of tolerance or lack of quality. Well, the people in Japan had a different idea about that, a completely different idea. And they said, oh no, quality is the best way to go. The first Japanese car I ever bought in my life was a Honda Civic. And it was a little square boxy thing. I had to get on a waiting list to buy it, and then I gave a guy $1,000 to let me jump up to his spot on the list. It was a little square thing. You'll see, you got to look out for like an 82, 83 Civic little box. And I'll never forget the first time I got in that car, you had two colors, three. There was a black with a black interior. There was kind of a gray with a gray interior, kind of bluish gray, and then a white. I bought the bluish kind of gray. I got in that car, and I closed the door, and it went boom. Now, I'd been getting in American cars, including my parents who were, my parents were like big car people to the end. My mother had a Lincoln Townhouse you could have put 3 homeless families into. I'm serious. She has gigantic Lincoln Town. Well, I called it the Lincoln Townhouse instead of the town cars. It was huge. It was a boat. So I had my little car, and I'd close the cars on those supposed luxury vehicles. I'd hear a boom, but that little tiny boom. I knew, man, I drove it. Front wheel drive. Beautiful. I had that car for 8 years. I put nearly 400,000 miles on it, and I had to get rid of it because the air conditioning went out, and the guy at the dealership said it will cost you more to put in the new. They'd gone from Freon to something else. He said it'll cost you more to put that in than just buy a new car, buy an Accord. What was the secret? Well, their secret was high quality, but one thing was they made the customer the partner. Across the speedometer was a little bar that had red, green, and yellow. Okay, and it would, and if everything was kosher, it was all green. And then you'd see one bar turn to yellow, and then maybe to red. And the dealer would say when all three go to red, he said, "This is just like the casino. When those are not cherries, those are lemons. Bring it in now, get it fixed." And so I followed that regimen, and the thing ran. It was incredible. And I parted with it. I had a Honda Accord. I bought a Prelude, which was a ticket waiting to happen, a little red Prelude. Car kind of like Dr. Rudbach has. And in St. Louis, every little city likes to give people tickets. So, if I'd go somewhere on a Saturday night in my little red car, if I hit that, I'd end up in 4 municipal courts the next Monday. So I got rid of it. And I was going to buy an Acura, and then an Optima. And fate intervened, and I bought an all-wheel drive vehicle. Drove it home one night in the middle of a snowstorm. I'm going 50 to 60 miles an hour. Everybody around me is sliding, and go, I'll never have anything but a four-wheel drive again. And the rest is history. Anyway, enough of my stories. So we've played around this a little bit. We've got this form. And let's look at some of this in terms of what we've got going on with this database. This is I want to get the, and this is the Uber. This is Uber 1. And we got some tables here. Let's look at that. And we'll go down to the design view. And this is what we call a dimension table, a slowly changing dimension table, because we have Uber sells stereos or something, I don't know what it was, to music companies. And they have a table called music codes, music ID, and the music interest. This is a dimension table because it has attributes or characteristics. Now, we're going to close this off, and then we're going to look at this Uber A. And here is another dimension table that shows us the last name and the first name, and the music interests A, music interests B, and there's their best and their second per organization. Okay, so far so good. We'll close that off. Then we're going to look at Uber B. Here's another dimension table. This shows us the organization, and the organization has a code, okay? And it's a dimension table because it tells us where these folks are located, and we have an organization code. Okay, this will make sense here in a minute. And then we see, and this is from another case. This is a later on more complex case, but this is just simply the last name and the first name and the organization these folks work for, okay? So we don't have anything here that we would call a production table or a fact table. We don't have that. And we've got some queries we're going to run here in a minute, but I want to look first of all at this music codes, pardon me, Uber A, and let's open it up and put it into design view. Then close the shutter. Now we have the last name, the first name, we have the music interest A and the music interest B, and then we have the organization. Now we want to make sure that we have control of how the data are inputted. We have forms to do that, but the table will dictate to the form what we've got. And we want to make this as easy as possible, okay? So I'm going to click on music interest A, and then I'm going to click lookup. And you're going to see the display control. It's a combo box. I've done this before. The row source type is table or query. And then the row source is, we have some code there. And then we have one bound column, then 2 column counts. It's within that bound. And then you'll see a column width. Take your cursor right there on row source and click it. And it should, pardon me, come over to the 3 little dots and click that. And you'll see, we talked about this before, I can run a query to create discipline within a field. So I can show, I can make it easier to input data. Now what's going to happen here is when people are working in that table, people working in the form, in the table, you're going to have the music interest code, the music interest ID, and then you have music interest codes, but that's, you've got that, that's, we suppress that. So if we want to see what it looks like, click up here on the view. Who's on the view today? Does anybody know? Probably there's one of you out there, there's some of you out there, you need to admit it, you're somewhere at home, you're sucking down potato chips and soda, probably having a burger, watching the view, and pretending like you're listening to me. Shame on you. Okay? That's all, I'm kidding. No, it's probably saying, how do you know? Because I have a camera and I can see. Every one of you who are here, I can see right into where you're at right now. That's not true, it's a lie. All right, I'll close this jewel off. You say, what's the point? Well, I've got time to fill and I get paid for it, so let's fill the time. But actually, let's go ahead. So we say the, okay. Notice something. I'm going to click over here on on music interest A and B. Click it, and you'll see the drop-down menu. Okay? This is a way we control the data input. And there's also another, anytime you go out and you have a drop-down menu, that's what's going on behind. The designer of the database has determined they want to control. And I think we've done some of this when we've looked at things like the input mask for phone numbers, the input masks for zip codes. No different here, okay? When you're buying stuff, if you go to Amazon and you buy something and you use your credit card, the sequence, if I'm not mistaken, is you put in the credit card number, then you put in your security code, and you'll be surprised when it pops up and it says, oh, you're using a Visa card. How did you know that? Well, because there are certain security codes with that and associated with that number. And there you go. Now, if bad people find that and they mine through and get it, that's not good. But here we can see it's the same thing with music interest B. There it is again. So we've used this to control. I'm going to open the navigation pane back here again, and let's look at Uber B. And we had looked at that. Now you say, well, would I want to maybe have estates for each of these locations? Well, I guess you probably could. You don't have enough records and they're a little bit varied, but that's okay. Not that big of a deal. Now, before we look at some queries, we're going to look at one other database tool, okay? And we're going to click up here and click on relationships. Now, we've done this before, but here we'll note we have two tables, Uber A and Uber B, okay, that are linked on the basis of organization. Now, this is a little different because neither one of these fields is a primary key. So we have what we call an indeterminate relationship. But that's okay because when we run a query, we just want it to match. So take your cursor and put it on the line there and click Edit Relationship. When I was your age, editing relationship usually ended in a slap and a young lady saying, "Don't ever come back." But hey, yeah, what can I say? I grew and changed this into a man. You know, let's hope. My wife would dispute that. But, so we have an indeterminate relationship. And click on Join Type. And here we are back to Venn diagrams. Put on the garlic. Dr. Harmon's brought the vampire of geometry. Or Boolean algebra back into my home. Get this demon out. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me ask all of you something. Sunday at church, I put my hand on my mother-in-law's forehead and I said, "Woman, come out of devil." She seemed offended. Did I do something wrong? She's all right. She got tickled. Then she whacked me. So I knew she was all right with it. But you know what? Anyway, I was in church Easter. Yes, I was. Now, notice here on the join properties, number one is a strict intersection. Imagine set A, Venn diagram, set B. The two intersect. That's that first one. The second one is what we would call a left join. Everything in set A and then the stuff that matches in set B. The third one is what we would call a right join. Isn't this terribly complicated? It really isn't. That's the part that fascinates me. People get so crazed about it. If an idiot like me can understand it, you can understand it. So I click 3, include all records. Okay. This is from the right-hand table, and then where it matches with A. So we've got this indeterminate relation, and that's okay, and we'll click that off, all right? And now let's look on here and click on the relationships box and click Show Table, okay? And click Uber C. Let's add it, okay? And I added too many Uber C's. Oh, hide that one. Here's Uber C. Now notice something. I have two fields that match. I have a field that matches, organization. So I'm going to put my cursor here. I'm going to bring it over here. And you see the little positive sign? Everybody see that? I've written Microsoft repeatedly and said I want it to be a sign of the cross. They will not do it. And see, here's another way the devil is already in Microsoft Access. We'll click positive, and now we can choose to relate these two, and we just simply say create, and they are linked. You say, okay, since they're linked, could I run a query on all three tables? You betcha. If I get 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, this is how Google, you go to run a search and Google starts filling in the answers for you already. okay? This, when you've heard me talk about, we're trying to leverage the law of large numbers to find patterns. We do it by combining all these tables. Now we've combined the 3 tables. At this point, you probably will not be doing anything like this when you're at work, but to understand the process so that when you have a conversation with your vendor or you have a conversation with your IT people, you can have an intelligent conversation, okay? Nothing is worse. Well, let me put it like this. I have been a strong component to force more and more folks who are going to be out in business, like computer scientists, chemists, physicists, etc. Make them take some business courses. Why? So they understand the world in which we operate. If they don't, they're going to be tough to work with, and it's going to be a problem. By the same token, as a business person, if I were you, I would at least try to take some courses that might broaden my horizons a little bit. If anything, if you're a management major, let me suggest some kind of commonsensical elective courses. Try sociology. You're working with people. It's about groups. Anthropology. You're working with people. See, I'm not very good at working with people, although I even have those courses, so I'm no guarantee they work. Psychology. You're working with people. People courses. Follow me? So you know how to manipulate them and use them and debase them and then fire them. That's our plan. Shh, don't tell anyone. I'm just being crazy. Okay. Anyway, we've got these 3 tables pulled together if we want to. If we don't want to have them linked together, it's simple. Put our cursor there, and we delete it. Yes?
What's your master's?
I've got 2 master's degrees, 3. I have a master's degree in vocab. I got a master's degree in finance and a master's degree in operations. A doctorate was an interdisciplinary program at the University of Oklahoma. I took coursework through the College of Education, College of Business, and College of Science. I was the second person at OU to use computer science as my language, literally. This is how old I am. There were no computer science courses. There were no computer science programs. I learned programming by taking courses with people who were RPG, which is engineers at the time, used RPG 1, RPG 2. There was a guy over in the Petroleum Engineering, College of Petroleum Engineering. He would let me sit in classes and he'd go, "You will not understand anything, but I will know if you've run the data and programmed it correctly." And he'd go, and I'd bring it to him and go, no. He'd go, "That's good." And I realized there was a reason he was talking to me like I was a small child or maybe an animal. Because his IQ was about 90 points higher than me. Brilliant man. I took RPG 1 and 2 with him. I took BASIC, which at the time was kind of the programming with College of Education. I took RPG, then I took COBOL, Common Ordinary Business Language, over at the University of Oklahoma. I took 3 library science courses so I could learn to work with databases, because the library scientists were kind of the people who were going, "We need to organize all this because we got a lot of stuff." And so I took a course on SPSS, which still exists today, a course on SAS, which is still there, and then a course called, a database learned about it called BMDP, the Biomedical Database Program. And it was for people that worked in the health sciences field. But it was one of those databases that if you're going to say this is my language, you had to master it. So that's what I did. My dissertation, I did textual analysis, algorithms and textual analysis. Completely useless. Look at me. how I turned out. Completely useless. But I had a good time. But yeah, I took, those are broadening experiences, because every one of those different colleges, they had a different mindset and a different approach. And it was very humbling to go in and run a program. And okay, this will really date me. In that day, they had things called Hollerith cards, punch cards, and you put them into a big vacuum reader, and then, and if it stopped, you go, if it went, you go, yes. And so I'd be down at the physical sciences building, at night, and I'd have someone in front of me going, no, somebody was running their dissertation. Then I had mine. I still had the cards. I had about 6 boxes, and they had to be all straight. But the technology was advancing so fast that by the time I defended my dissertation, mine was the second or third that was recorded on they had a computer lab, and they had some software, PFS Write or something like that. So my dissertation, they typed it in, printed it out. I had my 6 copies ready. I walked over to the graduate school. It was all done in 10 minutes. My advisors all signed off, and I walked to the graduate school, and the graduate dean went berserk and called my advisor and said, this is impossible. And he walked over and showed her. She was not much on technology, and she didn't like what I did. And neither have countless students in universities. So I followed suit. Anyway, want to show you a couple of other things, and then we'll be through here. And I'm very sorry about that. We're on to 3:15. What am I talking about? But I had a very, I'll say this, I had a fantastic doctoral committee. There were great people. They opened a lot of doors for me, and one of them was Don Udell, who was my advisor, Dr. Udell, great man, and the other was Dr. Roger Atherton, who's retired from OU. He was in College of Business. He was the chair of the management department, and he's the one who opened some big doors for me. And when I went up to Cambridge for the summer after I did my doctorate, I'm walking there and I'm listening to these seminars, and I'm living over there in the quads with folks, and I had these people are all brainiacs, and they are not from this planet. And they would speak to me. People said, what was your main impression when you were there? And I tell them, well, they spoke to me as if I was a small child or an animal. And the reason is their brain was so far ahead of mine, it wasn't even funny. I roomed with a guy who was working on the efficiency with which fuel is fed into an engine, trying to get it efficient. He probably is the person who came up with this thing now with these cars. When you have your car, my new car, it's disconcerting to you. You come up, you stop, and you see. And the reason is not sitting there throwing out carbohydrates, throwing out carbon emissions. It stops. And then when I put the phone accelerator, boom, he goes. He's probably one of the people who works on the thing. He was an undergraduate student in this project. I was a PhD, and he made me look like I was a third grader. But there were some great people speaking there. It was always an experience. The funny thing, though, everybody has a complaint. And the thing that I found was that all of the people there hated the people across the River Charles, because across the river is who? Harvard. The C students that run the world. The MIT people, we're so smart, why won't they listen to us? But the Harvard people, they ran the world. And they had the people at MIT had a chip on their shoulder a mile wide and a mile long. So there's always someone you can be angry about or envy. I learned that. I thought, how could these people possibly envy the people at Harvard? They did, because here they are, the smartest people in the world. Nobody listens to them. And to show you that our Lord is truly graceful, I'm the stupidest person in the world and nobody listens to me. Thank God they don't listen to me. Thank God. I've had some interesting product ideas. Anyway, I want to show you a couple of things here on these queries. And let's look at task 1, okay? And then go down to the design view. And you'll notice here we are, we're using the 2 queries timed together. No big deal there. And then you'll see we have a union here. And if I go down into the SQL view, it'll show me I'm going to a union, and that means I grab all the records from both tables, okay? But I eliminate the duplicates. If I use a thing called union all, I keep the duplicate records. So we've got that data set. Then I have task 4B. I'll open it up. And this shows us their organization, the country, their first and their last name. No big deal here. And there's the thing, task 5. We look at that. Now this one is interesting because we'll put it into the design view, and I'll close the shutter. This shows you their first name, their last name, their address, okay, and their musical interests. But look at the bottom here. You'll notice if you see the criteria, it says USA. And below it says USA. So USA, USA. Okay. Anyway, I have a criterion. I'm after people in the United States whose first musical interest A, is hard rock or hip hop. Now, I also want people from the United States whose musical interest B, the second one, is hip hop or hard rock. So I have the criteria or, and the or is a union statement, Boolean logic. And so I'm going to get everybody from the United States whose first choice A is hip hop or hard rock, and then everybody in the United States whose second choice is, and this is a nested query. And I'll show you the SQL on it. So you say, wow, sometimes it's better to work in the design view. Yes, that's what that's what I learned a long time ago. Okay? And so we'll go back up here to design view, and you could see I designed those. Now, want to do one final thing. Let's click the navigation pane. Now I have task 5, and I'm going to export it. So I'm going to right click it, I'll click export, and I'll click Excel. All right, I'm going to make sure that I put it on my desktop. And I'm going to call this task 5, and I'm going to save it. I'll click OK. Okay. I'd already done this before. Today is section A, so no big deal. Now, you'll need to look around on there, and you'll find that little file 5, okay? Let me find where that little jewel is at. I put it on here. I thought, oh, for crying out loud, where are you? You should be on here. 5. Well, if I have to, I'll export it again just to make sure I can grab it. They should have you on here. Where?
Low trust in CTC on the right side of your screen, and next to these files on the left.
Okay.
Right below that.
Right below this? Here?
Go down. Yep, keep going down, keep going down. There it is.
There's task 5. Oh, you little booger. Oh, okay, I know what happened. I apologize. Thank you very much. No, I'm not drunk. I'm a little tipsy, but only in the Holy Spirit. What can I say? Okay, here we go. I'd say this is an Excel file. I want to show you something just to kind of whet your appetite for what you can do. Now, we're working with a limited number of cases, and this I admit, these are all from the United States, okay? So I've got this file. So open up your file, right? And then we're going to go over and open up a new browser tab. And we're going to go to Easy Map Maker. And it won't be long, they'll be going, Miss Dr. Harmon over here. Yeah, I'm getting there. I'm on the way. All right. Now, I'm going to create a map. Excel data. Now, this is just a cheap little, freebie product out there, but I want to show you what we can do. Okay. Now, I want to go ahead and look at this, and I want to get and I'm going to copy all these, okay? These are the addresses of everybody in the United States who hip hop or hard rock. I'm going to click copy, and then move this out of the way. I'm going to go back to Easy Map Maker, and I'm going to click or paste my data here. All right. And I'm going to make my map. Now, this is nothing really fancy schmancy, but it ain't bad for free. And then I can click on the little bubbles, and it will show me. Now, obviously, these are like, what, 3 or 4 customers, four result sets I had. And maybe there was one that the address wasn't right. But I can put my cursor, I can hover over, okay? I can click it, and it'll tell me who these people are or who this person is. Now, I know this is a very small sample size, okay? I understand that. But if I have 500 of these, I can start to look at the data, and I use the locational data to get a picture. Where are these people at? Okay? Where are they located? This is just a very simplistic example. However, I'll have a project for you where you're going to take an establishment, I'll talk about something Thursday, and you're going to use some mapping tools, free and available to all, to look at a retail location and kind of analyze it, get a picture of it. Okay, I'll stop now. Does anyone have any questions other than, is it too late to drop the course? Okay, or when does the Funny Farm people come to get you? Okay. No? No questions? None? I'm waiting. Okay. All right, my friends. That will pretty much do it. And you want to upload the ACCDB 6 or the Garden 12 or 13. Let me encourage you again, and I'll just close with this. This text from Lambert is an outstanding text. And so I've tried to leave that for you so you can work through it. And then I've taken cases I've played with for a long time and just kind of done some I've done some shorts, etc. But the Lambert texts are quite good, and I hope you've been following along with it, working with it. And Thursday, I will go over the project, the projects, the final exam, that bit. So we'll call it the end of the day. Thank you very much, folks. If you don't have any questions, I'll stop the share.